I used to think that love was enough, that if two people were strongly linked, if they established a life together with shared laughter and calm nights, that would be the foundation strong enough to endure a lifetime. For 6 years, I believed that. I married Megan with the conviction of a guy who had finally found his love. We weren't the type of couple that set the globe on fire with passion, but we had something real, stable, reliable, like the hum of a well-oiled machine. Our love was a modest kind, one centered on small gestures rather than grand announcements. We had 3 children, our pleasure and delight. The twins were the chaotic center of our existence, constantly crashing over each other, their giggles filling every part of our suburban home. Our oldest, a curious and stubborn toddler, was just learning to traverse the world, his little hands grasping for everything, his steps still unsteady but determined. Megan and I lived in a safe neighborhood, one of those places where kids played in the front yard and every lawn was nicely mowed. The streets were bordered with towering oaks, their branches waving gently in the wind, producing shadows that danced on the pavement. At night, the world outside grew silent, as if we lived in a sheltered cocoon where nothing truly horrible could happen. I remember arriving home from work and hearing Megan's laugh echo from the kitchen. It was a sound that used to ground me, that helped the tension of the day melt away. She had this way of making even the most routine tasks feel wonderful, an inside joke while washing the dishes, a quick kiss on my face while handing me a plate. Most evenings, after we tucked the kids in, we'd sit together on the couch, her feet curled under her as she scanned through her phone, and I flipped through stations, neither of us really paying attention to the TV. It wasn't a life of great drama or tremendous passion. Yet, it was ours, and I was pleased. But looking back now, I wonder, how much of that bliss was real? And how much of it was just my own willful blindness? Because happiness doesn't evaporate overnight. It doesn't just slip through your fingers like sand in an instant. No. It dissolves slowly, piece by piece, in ways so small that you don't even notice it at first. I didn't notice the first thread had come loose until Megan made a decision that broke our marriage into something incomprehensible. It started last year. One choice. One secret. One moment that changed the woman I loved into a stranger. Would I have seen it coming if I had paid more attention? Maybe. I had observed the small changes in her, the way she hesitated before answering certain topics, the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching. But the thing about betrayal is that it hides in the places you least expect. And when it finally shows itself, it doesn't do so with a warning. It blindsides you. It knocks the air out of your lungs, leaving you gasping, struggling to make sense of something that was never supposed to happen. For 6 years, I trusted Megan. I trusted in the love we had built, in the home we had created, in the family we had raised together. I never imagined that one day I'd be sitting in the rubble of that existence, wondering how it all fell apart so fast. Trust is a precious thing. You don't understand how delicate it is until it shatters. Until you're left staring at the jagged fragments, wondering how something that once felt so strong could be reduced to ruins. Spoke. Then Lauren grabbed Brian's arm. "Come on, let's go." They went without another word, and for the first time in months, I felt a moment of serenity. The bitterness rose, but the serenity was transitory. Because even after that confrontation, Megan refused to face the truth. She wanted to pretend that nothing had changed. She still strolled through our house like it was business as usual, expecting me to care. Expecting me to support her pregnancy like I was some fool who hadn't already seen her priorities obvious as day. She'd sigh significantly when her back ached, looking at me like I was supposed to volunteer to help. She'd drop hints about her cravings, like I was meant to run to the grocery store at 2 a.m. for ice cream. She'd leave baby books spread around the house, as if I was expected to care for this child she was carrying for someone else. I didn't. I had nothing left to give her. One night she came to my bedroom door, standing there pathetically, her belly rounding out under one of my old t-shirts. "Daniel, my legs are cramping. Could you touch them like you did when I was pregnant with the twins?" I glanced at her for a long while, seeing the way her face twisted in desperation. Then I stated bluntly, "No," and I shut the door in her face. The family intervention Megans. Mother and father started phoning soon after. It always started the same way. "Daniel, we need to talk about your treatment of Megan. Daniel, this is not how a husband behaves. Daniel, she is carrying a life. How can you be so callous? Heartless." That was their favorite term. Megan had plainly painted me as the villain in this. She was the grieving mother, the unselfish sister, and I was the nasty, unfeeling spouse who had abandoned her. I had no patience for their lectures. One day, her mother called, voice oozing with disappointment. "Daniel, I can't believe how selfish you're being. Megan is doing something lovely, something unselfish, and you're treating her like an outcast." I tightened my grasp on my phone. "Maybe ask your daughter why she did it without telling me. Question her why she thought my feelings didn't matter. I owe her nothing. That baby isn't mine." Her father tried intimidation one night. He called, his voice a low growl. "Son, you're walking down a dark path. If you don't support Megan, we'll see to it that you regret it." I smirked. "That's interesting, because I already regret trusting your daughter with my marriage. Good luck with your threats." They hung up on me, but I knew one thing for sure. They thought I was a monster, and I didn't care. The final blow, by the 8th month of her pregnancy, Megan was terrible. She was fatigued, overwhelmed, struggling. She had made her choice. But she hadn't contemplated the repercussions, and I refused to save her from them. One evening she came home with shopping bags, struggling under their weight, nearly dropping one on the porch. She called out, her voice strained. "Daniel, can you help me? My back is killing me." I stood in the doorway, arms folded. "Ask Brian or Lauren, they're the reason you're pregnant." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but beneath them was fury. "I just spent hours at the hospital dealing with checkups. I'm fatigued. I'm still your wife, whether you like it or not." I let out a frigid laugh. "Not for long, and certainly not in spirit. You made that clear." She let out a frustrated wail, lugging the bags inside alone. A can slipped out, rolling onto the porch. I didn't move. She heard her forearm wrestling everything within, panting as she laid the bags down. She turned to me, her voice shrill and shattered. "You can't keep punishing me like this." I arched an eyebrow. "I'm not punishing you. I'm just refusing to play the supportive husband role you threw away." She stared at me, her hand on her stomach, eyes burning with emotions I couldn't force myself to care about anymore. "When this baby is born, you'll wish you hadn't been so cruel." I laughed, a dark, humorless sound. "Trust me, I won't, because you'll be gone. And so will this mistake." For the first time, Megan seemed honestly, deeply terrified. And I felt nothing. The ghost of a marriage. We went through the house like two strangers forced to cohabit. She kept to herself. I kept to myself. We had separate lives, tied only by the children we already had. But she kept testing me, hoping I would cave. Hoping I would wake one morning and suddenly become the man who supported his wife through pregnancy again. One evening, she came into the kitchen, her eyes fatigued, her hand on her back. "Daniel, my feet are swelling. Could you rub them? Just for a little while?" I didn't even look up from my coffee. "No," she breathed sharply. "Daniel, come on. You used to do that every time I was pregnant. You know how terrible this becomes?" I laid my cup down, finally meeting her stare. "That was when you were carrying my child." Her face crumpled. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her jaw tightened, then she turned and walked away.